Okay, so
So,
then you have another near-death experience, so you wanna tell us about that one?
yes, that was the big one. That's the one I call the huge, humongous, big, deep, very detailed. I was struck by lightning 4 times. It was over the course of a couple of years, and twice was ball lightning, and twice was the lightning bolt. And the fourth strike caused my second near death experience. I was talking on a cordless phone on my back concrete steps, and I heard thunder in the distance. So I figured, okay, that's far away. But then all of a sudden, I heard this loud crack, and that lightning bolt came out of the sky. I saw it. It hit my arm. And when it hit my arm, it went through my body.
My beautiful guest today is Sharon Milliman, who has been struck by lightning multiple times and has had not one, not two, not three, but four near death experiences, with the first one beginning when she was 13 years old from drowning. And today we are going to talk about all four of those near death experiences, and we're going to dig in deep and ask lots of questions. So, Sharon, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to be here with you. Thank you.
Oh, I'm glad. So I have not really talked to somebody who has been struck by lightning and struck by lightning multiple times and lived to tell the tale. So I am really excited to talk to you today about your experiences, because I know it's not just even about your near death experiences, but you have also gained lots of abilities as a result of going through these experiences. So I want to talk about that with you as well today.
Okay.
And to the audience, I'm going to apologize. I'm having issues with my Zoom, multiple recordings. My mouth does not match what I'm saying as I'm speaking, but it's good for my guests. So please ignore me during this recording. And I'm sorry about that. Can't fix the technology. So, Sharon, do you want to start with that first drowning that you had when you were 13?
Well, I was taking swimming lessons at the local Y here in the town that I live in. And the teacher wanted us to, well, we were all the big kids. So we were down at the 10-foot section of the pool. And the instructor, teacher, lifeguard, so he wanted us to dive headfirst, this way down into the 10-foot section. And I don't know what it was, but there was something that was holding me back. It was I I watched everybody else do it. They came out of it fine. I had to literally talk myself into even looking in the water, much less diving in it. And he told me, I just told him I can't do it. I just can't. And he said, well, you're either going to do this dive or I'm going to throw you in. And he grabbed me around my waist and he picked me up and he threw me in the water. And he threw me way into the water, not like off to the side or anything. And I panicked and took in a whole bunch of water and I sunk to the bottom. And it, the minute or however long I have no sense of time about this. It seemed like everything was happening all at once or moving in very slow motion. And it was like, I couldn't tell you if it took a minute or 2 minutes or 5 minutes. I don't know. But I do remember I was underneath the water. I was on the bottom of the pool. I could hear all the screaming and I could see my mom. She was in the balcony on the other side of the pool where the parents were sitting. and I could see her face as if she was right in front of me. And she had this look of horror on her face. And then I heard the female teacher, lifeguard, whatever they call them. She was in the 3 foot section with the babies, the small children. And I heard her screaming at my teacher. And she said, Bob, go in and get her. And he was just, and then it was like like your camera moved, and I could see his face. And he was just frozen. He couldn't, I mean, he couldn't move. And so I could see the water rippling on top as I'm laying on the bottom. And I felt there wasn't any more pain. I wasn't cold. I always thought people who drown were cold. You would see them on the bottom of the pool or the bottom of whatever. And to me, I thought that person would be cold, but I wasn't cold and I wasn't scared. I had no pain. And I saw this light. It was at first it looked like a light bulb. And in my mind, I'm thinking, who puts a light bulb in a pool? That's not smart. That's dangerous, you know? And but then that light kept getting bigger and bigger. And I don't know if I was going up to it or it was coming down to me, but I was definitely away from my body because I could see my body. I could, so I'm outside of it and I could see it on the floor of the pool. But then I could see the light. So I'm laying there and I'm looking up and the light was coming down. And I felt that it was so beautiful. It was just a very brilliant white, but yet it was soft at the same time. And it didn't hurt my eyes. It wasn't painful to look at or anything. And I felt drawn, really drawn to that light. But being 13, I had no clue what that light was or who that light was or what that was going to lead to. But I felt really drawn to that light. And as I said before, there was all this commotion and I could hear it. And I thought, how in my mind, I'm thinking, how weird. Who hears stuff like this when you're under 10 feet of water? But it was just a very odd sensation. And so I had all this stuff going through my mind. I guess I didn't know or realize that I was dead. Even though I was seeing myself laying there, it didn't register. But then I hear this just as that light was about to touch me. I mean, it was like this close to touching me. And I hear what sounded like a metal door slam and it echoed. And then I was back in my body and I felt this horrific pain and I was, throwing up water and coughing. And what had happened was there was the middle-aged kids. They were in the middle part of the pool. And it was their teacher who had jumped in and he pulled me out of took me over to the side and pulled me out. And he was doing CPR on me. And when I actually, came to and opened my eyes, I saw 100 legs. Because I turned my head and I remember seeing all these legs and feet. And the one person that I wanted to see the most was my mom. And then she must have knelt down because I could see her face. And then I was okay after that. I mean, it was, I wasn't scared anymore because I could see her face. I wasn't in the water. I was on the hard concrete, but we didn't talk about it. My mom and we didn't talk about it. I think it was too traumatic for her to watch this happen and not be able to do anything. And I was 13. I had no clue that there was even a name for what had happened. And I didn't even know how to talk about it. So, but I will tell you this, I still don't know how to swim.
That's
I
funny. I'm surprised. So
I can flip on my back and float like a turtle, but that's about
So Sharon, later in life, did you ever tell your mom about what happened?
well, you mean, oh, did I tell her what I saw?
Yes.
I don't remember telling her, but I told my dad. My mom, well, in her later years, she had Alzheimer's.
Mm,
So even if I had told her, she probably wouldn't have remembered.
right.
But no, I didn't talk to her about that. And also, when I was a little girl, my little brother who had passed away,
Mhm.
I was just like one when he passed away. And then I was two when my other brother passed away. And
Wow.
Michael, he used to come and play with me every day.
Is this
And
before you had this near-death experience?
uh-huh. Oh yeah, I
Okay.
was just a little girl. Yeah. So I was able to see things before, and that it he told me, "Don't tell mom. Call me." He told me to call me Jonas. Don't call me Michael because mom is really still upset. She's still mourning us. And if you call me Michael, that's going to make her cry. And I don't want her to cry. But he would come and play with me because I was the middle kid. My older sister was the, blessing, the angel child, whatever. And then I was the middle child, and she had lost her sons. And so I was just sort of there. And then my sister, my youngest sister, she was the miracle baby. She was the child who could do no wrong no matter what. So my brother, I, you know, he came to me every day, and we would run and play with each other in the golden wheat field behind the house. And whenever I got in trouble, he got in trouble. And there's a lot of wonderful, funny, amazing stories that I could tell you about my my little brother. But
That's really neat. I didn't know that about you. Well, I mean, you're already awake, you're already seeing things, and sometimes I think little kids have a propensity towards that, whether they retain that into adulthood or not. But here you are at 13 and you drown and you come back. How is
mhm.
your life different after that experience, aside from the fact that you're probably petrified of the water since you never learned to swim again?
Yeah, I have to be if I go into a pool, I either have to have swimmies
Or you have to be able to touch.
right, I have to know where that bottom is,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and be able to hold on to the side. I don't like if I get into a shower and I get that water in my face, it literally will take my breath away. So
I'm sure it would. Yeah, that's
I don't know
understandable.
if it's called trauma or what, but I love the ocean. I love to hear it, and I don't mind it touching my feet. But if it gets any deeper than that, forget about it.
Yeah, I get
So
that. So
it,
how is your life different though from the perspective of you're a normal 13-year-old girl and now you have this experience? Did it radically change or was it pretty much just the same after that?
well, it was kind of the same. I mean, because I didn't know what the light was. I didn't know that that light was, that was
What you know
heaven. That
now.
was the gate, the doorway to heaven.
Right.
I had no idea what that was all about.
Okay, so
So
then you have another near-death experience. So you want to tell us about that one?
yes, that was the big one. That's the one I call the huge, humongous, big, deep, very deep, very detailed. But I'll make it quick. But yeah, but I was struck by lightning 4 times. It was over the course of a couple of years, and twice was ball lightning, and twice was the lightning bolt, and the fourth. strike caused my second near-death experience. I was talking on a cordless phone on my back concrete steps that had a extension, a part of the roof hung out over the steps. So I thought I would be fine. And I heard thunder in the distance. So I figured, okay, that's far away, you know. I didn't hear it. It didn't sound like it was over top my house. It sounded like it was in the distance. But then all of a sudden I heard this loud crack. And that lightning bolt came out of the sky. I saw it. And yes, I know there's an arc. It comes from the ground and from the ceiling or the sky, and they meet in the middle. So yes, I know that. But it hit my arm. And when it hit my arm, it went through my body and it left char marks on the stairs where I was sitting, which I have a picture of it. You can see the black char marks on the step. And then what it did was it traveled underneath the house and blew the transformer that was right in front of the house. And so, I mean, for I don't know, an instant, I felt this burning, searing, agonizing pain in my arm and going across my chest. And then all of a sudden, it was like I just peeled right up out of myself. It was like peeling a banana, is what it was like. I was just popped right out. And so I could see myself laying on the ground. It was another one of those, I can see you. Hi. But I wasn't concerned about this crumpled up person on the ground. I just, it didn't dawn on me that I was even dead, to be honest with you. I didn't know. What happened was I wandered past her, me, this person. I walk up the back steps and I go through the back door. It was a Victorian house, so we had that old-fashioned wooden Victorian door. You open it up and bam, it slams real loud. So I'm in my kitchen and I'm looking at my curtains, and they were not my curtains. And everything had this burnt gold look to it. Even the air had this look, strange look. But when I saw that the curtains weren't mine, I started thinking, okay, this is weird. Then I walked into the dining room and I noticed that the furniture in the dining room wasn't mine. And then I went into the living room and the same was happening there. None of the furniture. This was my house. I knew what rooms I knew how to get around, but nothing in it was mine. And when I'm standing in the living room, I hear this old time radio playing, it's like something that you might hear in the Waltons or something, 20s or 30s. And actually, it wasn't music, it was like a talk show. It was like somebody was literally talking over this radio, and I couldn't find the radio. I didn't know where it was. And I started to panic. I really started to get upset because nothing in that house was mine. There were no people in that house. I couldn't find anybody. And so just as I start to panic, there was this huge, formless, but loving presence that appeared. And I knew who that presence was, just, I mean, at a soul level, soul knowing. I didn't have to question. I didn't have to look. I couldn't see him anyway, but I knew that presence was God. It was like he put his beautiful arm around my waist and picked me up, and I felt that love like I have never felt in my entire life ever. And the fear went away. I felt so loved and so protected and so, I mean, I felt like my knight in shining armor just arrived and I'm all good now. And But what happened was he did kind of just wrap me up in that love. And we started moving very quickly through these beautiful pink and gold clouds. And we didn't go up and we didn't go down, we went sideways. So we were just moving at this, I don't know what the word would be, astronomically fast. I don't know, but just so fast. And then we got to this beautiful garden, and it was just the entrance of this garden. And I mean, it's like you take one step and I could see all, it was like I could see everything without turning my head. My awareness, my senses were so heightened that I could see great detail from very far away. And I was just in awe at the beautiful flowers and the colors, and I could hear birds, and I could see just lots and lots of beautiful. It was just gorgeous. And did this screw up? Somebody's calling. Can you still see me, hear
Yeah,
me?
you're totally perfect. You're totally
Okay.
fine.
So there were these two men that stepped forward, and they looked like they were in their late 20s, early 30s. Of course, everyone that I saw looked to be about that age. But these two men, they had hair down to about right here, and it was real curly. It was a darker blonde, and it had this color running through it. And they at first I thought they were angels because they were glowing, just, and they were smiling, and it almost looked like they were surfer 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 dudes. They'd been out on the beach all day long, and they had that glowy beach look. And that's why I thought they were angels. But then as soon as that thought entered my mind, it was like, oh my gosh, it was my two brothers who had died when they were babies. And they looked, and when they smiled, they looked exactly like my dad when my dad was a young man. It was incredible. I kept saying, "Oh my God, I wish my dad could see you. Our dad could see you. He would be so proud of you." They were just absolutely gorgeous. And I said, "He would be so proud." I just kept saying that over and over. And so, anyway, they were with, I got one on one side, one on the other, and that huge loving presence moved from beside me to behind me at this point. So I'm surrounded with all this love. And I'm just so happy I could see my baby brothers. It was amazing. And they were wearing this beautiful ivory linen clothing, which they made it a point. So there was something important about the clothing that they were wearing. It looked to me like there was like some kind of lounge pants and a shirt, but it was open. And I didn't think anything about it. I mean, they just looked like they just took a shower after being on the beach all day and just threw on a shirt and a pair of lounge pants. I never thought much about it. But what they did was, it was the weave pattern that was important. And so they took, like, it was almost like taking a snapshot, and they held it up just like this in the corner of the weave pattern, and it made the weave pattern bigger so I could see the weave pattern, and it was a herringbone weave. And that was very important for them to show that to me. And it wasn't until a few years ago that I understood why they showed that to me.
Why?
Well, it was so important for them that I actually had a physical response. I almost passed out cold on the kitchen floor. My husband was making some bread or something, and he was watching on the History Channel a show, a documentary about the Shroud of Turin. Just as I walked in the room, they took a snapshot of the weave pattern of the shroud and they put it right up in the corner. Exactly what my brothers did. They took that weave pattern and they stuck it up in the corner, right in my face. Well, that's what they did on that thing, on that show. When I walked in, there's that weave pattern. And I literally started sobbing and I dropped to the floor. And my husband's like, "What is wrong with you?" And I said, "Did you see that, what they just did on that TV show?" I said, "That's exactly what my brothers did." And, and my husband said, "Well, they were trying to show you something about the shroud. That was a very important thing, that that weave pattern, and them showing that to me." Well, I've always believed that the Shroud of Turin was the real thing. It was not a fake. It's not a drawing or a painting or whatever. It is absolutely the real thing. But that's what they were trying to show me. And I have tried every angle that I can come up with as to why that was important to them. And I spoke with uh, he was an archbishop and he lived in the UK. So he had his own cathedral that he was the head of. And he studied the Shroud of Turin since like 73. And before he was an archbishop, he was a detective, a police detective. So he knew what exactly, what the steps you take and the things that you look for and all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't know. And I'm not sure that the average person would know what certain details you look for. Well, so I got a whole, he and I started having conversation about this. And so that became a big thing from that experience. But then, anyway, my brothers were walking around the garden with me, and I saw what I call the glorious city. And there's a golden wall that surrounds the glorious city. And inside the city, in the center of the city, is this gorgeous marble building, and it's round. And it has a magnificent golden dome on the top. And I'm not sure what goes on in that building. I just saw the outside of it. It's probably where they, take bets for the quickest horse or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I tease people about it all the time. It's probably where they watch it. They all sit there and pop their popcorn and have their Diet Pepsi, and they sit there and they take bets as they watch a virtual reality show of us down here.
Like the Truman Show. Like we're
Exactly.
the Truman Show.
As I tell people, don't take this life too serious because they're wherever they are. That's what they're doing in that round building there. We are their entertainment.
That
So,
makes that makes a lot of sense. It's funny.
so anyway, so I see these buildings. I saw one that would look like a spiritual hospital,
Hmm.
and it had these beautiful healing pools in the back behind the building. These buildings are all marble and they have very intricate details of archways and columns and very intricate carvings and just magnificent. They're gorgeous. And the landscaping, oh my goodness, just beautiful flowers everywhere. And so this building is it's a place where people go when they have died a traumatic death. Like 1 minute you're here, boom, you're gone. You're there, and what they do is they will gently bring you to the awareness of what has happened to you and where you are. So everything in heaven, or where I was, is very gentle and very peaceful. And um, it's not, you know, they don't hit you over the head and say, well, you're dead. Get used to it. They want to
They
teach you.
ease you into it sounds like.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not hard on you, because when you go back into spirit form, you have to relearn how to move around, how to get to where you want to be so that you can be with whatever friend or family or whatever. But and that all takes time to relearn this new place. But now I'm not sure if it was for my benefit only or if this was how it was, but it seemed to me like there were a lot of people. I saw a lot of people. There was another building I saw that looked like a gigantic library. It's called the Hall of Knowledge. And it was a big, gigantic library. I mean, it had like a bazillion books in it. And you go in there, and the walls were made of a rich, beautiful mahogany and chandeliers. That's how they lit the room, with these gorgeous chandeliers. And of course, there was stained glass or leaded glass and windows. And so, this is where you go if you want to get a book on. You've never been sailing in your life and you want to be on an old fashioned wooden ship with the big sails or whatever. I mean, you can go and you can read about it. Anything you want to know is in this building, and just books on every subject possible. There's another building that I saw. It's like a spiritual college or spiritual school, because everything in heaven is about your spiritual growth. It's very different than the schools that we have on earth, because these are schools of science. They're not schools of spiritual growth. um I saw a place where babies and children go. Oh, talk about fun. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this place is huge, and it has everything you could possibly want for your child. And there are mentors and teachers and loved ones who had already passed. They're all there taking care of these children. And what I understood was that the children will grow physically until they get to be late 20s, early 30s. And then they will no longer grow physically, but you continue with spiritual growth. So, and then if you're an older person and you pass away, you go back down to the 20s or 30s. So you got people going up and people going down, but most everybody will say around late 20s, early 30s. And I didn't see anyone older than that. I didn't see anybody hurt or sad or sick. I didn't see crutches or wheelchairs. I didn't see any of that. I mean, it was just
So it's like everybody is restored.
exactly. And my brothers had to actually, I was in awe. I mean, I was just like, wow, And so I was kind of in that wow factor. I was floating along like a feather on the breath of God. I mean, you could have just gone, and I would have gone floating somewhere else. I just was totally not grounded at all. My brothers had to tell me that I had died. I'm like, oh, well, if this is death, I can do this. This is okay, you know. But I wasn't, the only thing I worried about was whether I had a body or not, because everybody else had a body. So
Mm.
I looked down the front of me. When they told me I was dead, I looked down the front of me to see if I still had a body, and I did. I could see my hair going down the front of me. I could see my clothes. I had clothes on. Yay. it was I was wearing what I wore when I got hit by the lightning. So I still had my my little tank top and my shorts, and I was barefoot. Of course, I'm always barefoot. So I was thrilled to death that I still had a body. My identity was important. I still looked like me. I still felt like me. I still had my memories. I You can't take personal possessions with you. I couldn't take a camera to take selfies with whoever, but you can't take any of that with you, but you can take with you your thoughts, your dreams, your memories, your hopes, your wishes, your all the things that make you who you are. That goes with you. And when I looked at my body, I thought, wow, this is a better body. I like this body because it was a better version of me. And I liked it, and I glowed. I was glowing just like everybody else. I'm like, oh, I like this. I look like I got a tan. This is cool. And I was happy with it. But what was even more was that I could still feel stuff. I felt the grass on my feet. I could smell. I could smell the grass. Freshly cut grass is what I smelled, along with the fragrance of different flowers, things like that. And I love that kind of smell in the springtime. And that's what it felt like. It was you take the most beautiful spring day and multiply that by 10 bazillion, and that's what it was. It was perfect. But I was just so happy. And the thing is that all my life, especially my adult life, I was told that I was fat, that I was ugly, that I was stupid, that I was not worthy of anything. I was a worthless human being. And now my parents didn't tell me that, but the world was telling me that. And it is extremely hurtful to hear that all the time. And I was literally buying into it. And but when I was there, I was totally accepted. Totally. I didn't even think about my hair and whether my hair was okay, or my makeup. Did I have makeup on? Was I dressed appropriately? Um, I was totally accepted for me. No, no strings attached, no questions asked. This is Sharon, and I was loved, period. And that felt so good because I had never felt that way. And it was absolutely wonderful. I was just basking in it. It was like, oh my gosh, I didn't ever think that there was a love like that existed, but it does. And it was so wonderful. So that's important, that at least for me, that our identities are he makes us, right?
Oh,
And
Sharon, I'm so glad you're bringing this up because I know it's not just important for you. It's important for a lot of the people listening because they haven't had the experiences that you've had. And for them, this is all just guesswork. It's conjecture, who's right, who's, wrong. But I think you hear this over and over again from the people like you who have had these near-death experiences, that you take your own personality, your own essence of being. You don't get to take anything material, but you exist in your personality, in the way you joke around, in the way you think about things. And I think that there's a lot of comfort in sharing that message with people.
yeah, well, it's 100% true. I mean, we all have hurt that we carry around. We all have baggage that we carry around with us. But when we get there, you are loved for you. And all that baggage goes away because God made you who you are. And he doesn't make junk. And that's part of this whole near death experience thing. He had to hit me 4 times with lightning because I wasn't listening to him. So he kept turning the volume up until I was dead. And he's like, girl, you're going to stand there in front of me and you're going to hear what I got to say. Then I'll let you go. But it took 4 strikes because I wasn't listening. And he turned up that volume. And, it was like he said, I love you. I don't make mistakes. I made you for a reason. And you are exactly the way you are for a reason. And you are important. Your identity is important. There is not another person on this planet that is you. You are the only you there is. And that's important. And you get to keep that beautiful, unique, purposefully made person that you are. And God even told me, he said, no matter how tiny we human beings are and the grand scheme of everything that he's created, I mean, you put us human being next to one of those humongous mountains in the Ozark Mountains or in any place, the mountains huge compared to us little human beings. And that's what he was talking about. We are very tiny in the grand scheme of everything that he's ever created, but we are integrally important to everything that he's created. And if we were not here, then his creation changes. That's how important we are. And that was a huge message, and you're right, it's not just for me, it's for other people, everybody, you know, because whether you call God or the great mystery or the great spirit or Yahweh or Allah or whoever, there's only one, and you can call him anything you want to, and that's okay. you know and he can love you, and he can love me, and he can love your kids, or he can love my kids. He can love every single one of us as if we were the only person he ever created. And he can do that all at the same time. And
It's
he does. I mean,
incredible. Yeah.
if you stop and think about it, he thinks about you. Let's say it's just because one of the questions he asked me in my experience was, what would you do if it was just me and you? And I'm thinking, what?
What did you
It was,
answer?
well, he had to ask me the question 3 times before and I still couldn't. And I didn't. I mean, I'm totally blonde and I can prove it. I couldn't answer him. I couldn't. It was like, what? So he had to ask me again, what would you do if it was just me and you? And I still didn't get it. So, I mean, I was fidgeting with my fingers and trying so hard to come up with something that sounded logical, but I couldn't say anything. So he kind of laughed. And because we were sitting on a log that had fallen down, and he purposely put it there. But so we're sitting there and we're talking, and he asked me these questions, and I couldn't answer them. So he said, come with me. So I get up and I follow him. We go a little bit further into the wooded glen that we were in, this little beautiful little wooded area. And we come to a clearing, and he just waves his hand. And when he did that, he opened up the sky and he showed me the universe with nothing in it. There were no people, no houses, no cars, no animals, no mountains, no nothing, just spinning planets and twinkling stars and rainbow colored gases. And for the people out there that think that there's no such thing as a rainbow colored gas and the vastness of the universe, yes, there is. But it was absolutely beautiful, but it was so big. I had no idea how big that the universe was. And I looked at God and I said, I don't think so. Because if it was all that, and just me and you would be so tired of me after the first 10 minutes with all my questions and chatter that you wouldn't like me anymore. So, no. And he threw his head back and he laughed. And when he laughed, his eyes, which God looked totally different than Jesus did. And I know that God is a spirit. He is spirit. He is love, but he is spirit. So he is formless. He is genderless unless he decides to take form or gender. And he is God. He can do anything he wants to. He appeared to me, if he appeared to me as a burning bush like he did with Moses, I just got struck by lightning. I would have took off running so fast. He would never got his message across. So he appeared to me in a way that I would feel comfortable. And believe it or not, I had never heard of what is Akian or whatever her name was, that girl that drew the painting. She drew a
Oh,
painting of the Prince of Peace.
yes, I know exactly what you're saying, and I'll edit this and put that in there so that they can see
Well,
it. I know exactly what you're talking about.
that's what God looked like. And I didn't even know that girl existed. I'd never heard of her. I didn't even see the movie. It came to our town years after it had come on. I mean, we live in this little town. So this movie came out a few years ago here where I live, and my husband took me to see it. And when I saw that picture flash across the screen, I grabbed my husband by the arm and I'm like, oh my God, that's God. That's not Jesus. That's God. And I mean, loud in the movie theater. And everybody's turning around looking at me. And I'm like, no, that's not Jesus. That's God. And yeah, I know it was embarrassing, but I was so shocked because I had never seen the picture or heard of the girl. But that's the way he appeared to me,
Hmm.
like that picture. And when I saw Jesus, because actually Jesus came out of a grove of trees while my brothers were walking me around showing me different things. He,
And how did you know immediately that it was Jesus? Was it
well, two reasons. One, your soul knows when you are standing with Jesus, there's no question, none whatsoever. There is so much love in his baby toe than, I mean, there's just, I don't know. I mean, the amount of love, compassion, understanding, all of these things, there's no question. I've had people ask me, did you ever go up to him and raise his sleeve to look at the marks on his arms or lift his pant leg up? And I said, yeah, I'm going to, excuse me, Jesus, while I grope you because I want to see your scars. I said, no, I've never done that. And I
Oh,
don't need to do that.
and it's heaven too. So all the time, I've had a lot of people who have had near death experiences. One person in particular, I'm remembering, whose wife died in a horrific car accident. And he looked over at her and she's dead and she's bloody and it's not a good scene. And then, boom, they're both on the other side and she's perfect and whole, not a mark on her. So it would make sense to me that anyway, even if you did lift your sleeves, that you wouldn't see anything.
Well, that's true. That's true. Even if he had a scar,
Right.
you
It
know,
probably wouldn't even
it
exist
wouldn't,
there.
yeah, it wouldn't be bloody and gross and all that. But I didn't need to see that to know who he was.
Mm.
Maybe, we tease people about being a doubting Thomas, and maybe there are people out there that, they won't believe unless they see the scars. But I'm not one of those people. I mean, I knew. I mean, it was just like in my soul, I knew. But I had an experience when I was 15. So I
What
had
was
already
that?
seen him.
What was your experience when you were 15?
Well, I was going through something that no little girl should ever go through.
Mm.
When I went to an adult about it, I was told it wasn't happening. When it was happening every day, and it continued to happen every day. And I told, even into my adult years, and I told I told someone about it, and I was told it's not happening. It's all in your head. And there are some secrets you take to your grave with you. You keep your mouth shut. And so I thought, okay, if you say it's not happening, then it's not happening. And in my mind, I thought I was just going crazy because I knew it was happening. And so I had planned to commit suicide, but I never told anybody. And I'm sorry, this is just hard. I belonged to a youth choir, and this was a Good Friday, and our choir was singing at a neighboring church. We were invited. I mean, this was a big choir. I had a lot of instruments, drums, bass guitars, pianos, whatever, just tons of instruments, lots of different voices and stuff. And anyway, so I became very withdrawn, and I was sitting in the way back while we were practicing. And there was two adult women sitting in front of me, and then two daughters of one of the women. And so we always had chaperones wherever we went. So those two women were like chaperones. And so I'm sitting in the way back, just, you know, uh, I was pretty much done. It was just a matter of carrying it out. But so I'm sitting back there, and all of a sudden, I see this man, and he's like clear across the room. And this was a big room that had partitions. You could close them off and like make smaller rooms out of the one big room. So he was pretty far away from me. But a second he walked into that room, you could feel the energy shift, the change. There was holiness in the room. I mean, that room was like holy. And when I saw him, I thought, because my eyes weren't very good anyway, I was squinting. I'm like, who is that? And my first thought was, is that an apostle? And I don't know why that popped into my head. But as soon as he got closer, I was like, oh my God, that's not an apostle. I said, oh my, that's Jesus. And he pulled up a chair and he sat down right next to me. And he looked at me. And when he did, he smiled. And oh my Lord, I about fell on the floor. I mean, here's this 15-year-old girl. And oh my word, he was so beautiful. But that love that just seeped out of every single pore, oh my word. So I couldn't say a word. I mean, my mouth went totally dry. I couldn't say anything. And uh, Louise and Ruth, they turned around as two women. They turned around and he said, where do I go to sit? As he pulls the chair out, and he's sitting down right next to me. And I'm like, oh, I couldn't answer him. So they turned around and they were telling him where he had to go, how he could get up the stair, up into the main church. And then he looked at me and he said, what is happening to you in your life is happening. You are not crazy. I love you. I'm with you. Don't be afraid. I mean, I don't know how much more perfect it could get because I never told anybody anything, you know? And he absolutely addressed what was in my heart. I didn't have to say anything. So when he stands up to go upstairs and he smiled at me and he had dimples and it was just like, oh,
I heard somebody else one time describe him as having dimples.
Oh my gosh, and he had the most beautiful dark olive complexion, but he looked like he was out in the sun on top of the dark. Oh, he was glowy too, and he had the beautiful brown eyes, and oh my gosh, and he had hair, long hair, beautiful, really dark, wavy, but it almost looked like it was highlighted as well. It had the golden highlights in it. And I don't know if that's just because he's the Lord, the King of Kings, the highest you can get. And he was just, I don't know, liquid gold everywhere, but he was just so perfect. And what was even better, excuse me, I'm my mouth.
No, you're fine.
I had four other women who was a witness to him being there. They saw him too. It wasn't just me. When he
Sherry, but did
stood,
they have the same reaction you did? They knew who that was?
they knew who he was. And actually, I have, when I posted, there were two videos that someone made, part one and part two. And when I posted those on my Facebook wall, one of the women, it was one of the daughters, she responded to it and she said, well, I'll tell you first of all, when he stood up to go upstairs, he put his finger just like this, one finger on the elbow of Louise, and he healed her elbow. She had arthritis so bad in her arm she could not bend her arm. And he touched her elbow with his finger when he stood up to go upstairs. Her elbow was healed. So when I posted that video where I'm telling this story, Terry, her daughter, says, I was there. This is the truth. She's telling the truth. It was my mother who was healed. He touched her and he healed her. So she is not lying. This is true. And so every year at Easter time, since I was 15, I would call Terry and Judy and I would say, tell me again, did that really happen? Did I make that up? No, Sharon, it really happened. We were all there. I promise you, it really did happen.
Wow.
So, I
And
mean,
did that bring you comfort from the situation that you were going through? The reason you feel like he showed up in the first place?
yeah, yeah, because I didn't, I mean, I, I no more did I think of committing suicide.
Wow.
You know, he addressed what was in my heart. And he did that another time too. I could actually show you where he stood in the kitchen. I'm living in my parents' home right now. I was the caregiver for both of my parents. But a year before my mom died, he showed up in my mom's kitchen and he was leaning against the countertop where the dishwasher is. And I had something heavy on my heart that I never told anybody. And I cried about it. And I thought God kicked me out of heaven 4 times. And I thought, do you not love me? Do I smell bad? What is the problem? You keep letting me die all these different ways. And then you send me back here just so I can find another way to die. You know, I really, I mean, it sounds funny now, but I mean, I cried about it. And he showed up. I put my mom to bed to take a nap, and my way of decompressing is to clean, or it used to be. So I was mopping the floor and I hear this noise. And I turn around and he's standing there, right, leaning up against the dishwasher. And I mean, and looked exactly the same. And he looked exactly the same every single time I've seen him. Only one time did he wear a robe, and that was when he was in heaven. I saw him in heaven. All the other times he was wearing clothes, just, and I don't know if that was because he didn't want to, you know, I don't know. But, you know, he was wearing a white tunic type sh- shirt, untucked, and lounge pants, what my brothers were wearing. And he was barefoot. I looked at his feet and I thought, well, you've got the nicest feet for a guy. And they were just beautiful. But what he said to me was, you cry because you think I cast you away from me when you were in heaven. And that's so far from the truth. He said, everything that you've gone through in your life has happened to prepare you for this job I have for you. I said, well, what job? He said, okay, when you're tired, when you're lonely, when you're scared, when you're worried, I want you to give all of that to me. He says, I'm pretty big and strong. I can take it. I'll take that for you. He said, I want you to do what you do best. I said, okay, what does that? He said, I want you to love. That's all I want you to do. I'll take care of everything else and you just love. I was like,
Sign me up.
start, okay, I can do that. It, it was just, I mean, it was, those are the kinds of things that he deals with. He talks to you about what's in here because he's the reader of hearts and the healer of hearts.
Yeah.
And I've had people ask me, is Jesus real? Yeah. Wasn't he just a historical figure? No. And, I'm not here to try to convert anybody. I just tell what happened to me and people
Sure.
can take it or leave it. But that's,
So you had these 3 near-death experiences, and you also have that encounter with Jesus at 15 and then later on. What was your 4th near-death experience?
okay. My fourth one, I was in the hospital for observation because I have seizures from the lightning. And I had a seizure that lasted too long or something. But they put me in the hospital for observation. And they had gave me some medicine and I had a reaction to the medicine. And I remember just laying in my bed and I fell asleep. Well, the next thing I know, I'm going up, 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 3 ups. And I was like a helium balloon. That's what I felt like, a helium balloon, and I was floating. And I was like floating up to the blue sky and beyond the blue sky and into space, but it wasn't space, but that's what it looked like. And I actually looked, I could see myself in the bed. I was on my side. Actually, let's see, I was on curled up on my left side in a fetal position. So I could see myself. But I was wrapped in this beautiful black velvet blanket, encasement like thing. And I could look into if you hold a blanket up or a sheet up to the light, you can see the little holes where the light's coming through, the little holes in the sheet or the blanket. That's what it looked like. I thought they were stars and they might very well have been stars, but I wasn't interested in that. I liked the dark. I knew there were other people in this area where I was, but I wasn't interested in them. They were doing their thing. I wanted to be in that safe, warm cocoon that I was in. I had heard about the void in different groups that I've been in, and people have asked me about it before. And I say it's the birthplace. It's where you go, you rest, you think, you reflect, whatever. I said, if you go there and you're scared, you can manifest all kinds of scary things. If you go there and you just rest, you don't think of anything, then there's nothing. You just rest. And that's what I did. I just rested. I was so tired and but I wasn't scared. And actually God appeared again as, remember I said he was a huge loving presence. Well, this time he was a huge loving presence that looked just like that painting. but he was humongous. And he was talking to another being, whether it was my soul he was talking to, or whether it was an angel he was talking to, but he was carrying on a conversation about me with somebody. And it was about whether I was going to stay or go back. And what I heard him say is, let's just think about this for a while. Let's not make a hasty decision. You need to rest. You're tired. You're you're heavy burdened. You just need to rest. Well, as soon as he said that, that quick, I'm back in my body. And there was a doctor leaning over me, screaming at me. There was lights on. The whole room was lit up. Nurses were running around. I had a non-breather oxygen mask on my face. I died from acute rest, um, or hypoventilation. There was two terms for it. But that was it. I mean,
These are
but it was,
incredible. So, Sharon, you have gifts. We talked a little bit about how you're able to see spirit, so mediumistic type of abilities. So, in addition to that, since you've also been seeing spirit since you were little, what other abilities have you developed since you've had these experiences?
well, I don't know if you would call this. I, I have a special kind of relationship with animals, I guess.
What is it?
Um, well, like birds and hawks, and I've had 5 different encounters with wolves.
What were the encounters?
Well, basically, they come up to me, they lay down on their back and let me rub their tummy. They'll lick my face.
That's pretty unusual, I'm gonna say, for a wolf. I've got
I know
talking to
it.
dog, I get it, but a wolf? Wow.
No, these were actually wolves. And it was like, I talked to this one guy. That was the owner of this giant. I mean, this thing was huge, and it was a female. I said, "What is she doing?" She's just like a giant puppy, you know. I said, "Why is everybody so afraid of her?" He said, "Well, she's never acted like this before." I said, "Well, what's she doing?" He said, "She's recognizing you as her alpha female." I said, "Oh, come on. I've never been an alpha anything in my entire life." And he started laughing. I said, "I'm serious. I'm always always the one left behind. And I'm always, the odd man out or whatever. I've never had anything do this, act like this." I said, "I'm honored. Truly, I am." But I mean, they're just like, I just acted like big puppies, and I would be
Mm.
petting them and playing with them or whatever. Last winter, I had another experience with one. His name was Zeke, and he walked away. His owner said, "If he walks up to you, you can pet him." He no sooner got those words out of his mouth than the wolf was standing right next to me on the sidewalk. And then he said, "Now, if you don't look at him in his eyes." I'm sorry. His little wolf friend was like this, looking up at me, eye to eye contact. It's just, I don't know. They just show up, and there's plenty of people around here that own them, I guess. But so I have this thing with, and I love horses, and so if I'm around the horse, and they kind of lay their head on my shoulder. Just, I don't know. I have this thing with animals, I guess, that I didn't have when I was younger. So that kind of something new from my near death experience. I have a very special, very sacred, um, I don't know whether you call it relationship, friendship, whatever it is, with a white buffalo. And I know that sounds weird, but I just love him to death.
Is it a
And
spirit, like a spirit, a
no,
spirit
this is a
guide?
real white buffalo.
Oh, wow.
And every time I see this buffalo, and I try to go every couple years because I don't know how long buffalo live, and I want to see him as often as I can. But he's acted in what I would call very sacred and holy ways whenever I'm around and I'm saying prayers. And like I've even told people, I don't know even what the proper, never been taught traditional native anything. I would love to have a teacher teach me what I'm supposed to do. But I'll kneel down in the rocks and say my Hail Mary or something. And he'll just walk right over and responds. And he he's to me, he's just so precious. And I leave the prayer ties and the little prayer bundles. And the last time I was there, I had a beaded bracelet on my wrist that was my grandmother gave me, and I had no other gift to leave. And so I just took it off my wrist and I slipped it underneath the cage, this chain link fence. And I just talked to him and I said, "You know how much I love you. You know how much I honor and respect you. And I want to bring you a gift, but I have nothing to offer except this bracelet that my grandma gave me. And I know that you deserve so much more, but this is all I have. So I want you to have it." And then I said my little prayer and then I got up. But it's what he did in response to that. Now I don't know if this is a typical response from a buffalo because I don't know I don't know that much about buffalo, but he as I was kneeling down and I was praying, after I said that, I said my prayer. He came out from behind this, I don't know what it is, like a building, some kind of little shed, or, you know, I guess a place for them to go when it's raining or whatever. They can go in there. So it's him and a black calf, and they're siblings. So they were born of the same mother. But anyway, they came out from behind that building and they walked towards me. I had within arm's length because I had my arm over the top of the fence, and they stopped just short of my fingertips. And after I got done saying my prayer, the white one, he bowed his head very purposefully. And I have a witness standing right there, bowed his head 3 times. Then he went over and rubbed up against the post. And then the black calf followed him and he bowed his head 3 times. And then he went over and rubbed up against the post. I was not sure what the meaning of that was, other than they, you know, liked my little prayer. But to me, I was very humbled and very honored by their response to the prayer.
Of course, because animals are unconditional love, so that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they are. But see, if you watch an animal, you can learn so much by just watching an animal, just any animal. It just depends. And they teach us stuff that we need to know, to, just to live and survive. And I mean, they're just amazing animal. I love animals, but they are, that one is a very special one.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you for sharing that. So, Sharon, people that are watching this may have questions for you. They may want to reach out to you. What do you do with the people that reach out to you?
Actually, you, people can, I, I don't mind if people want to email me, or if they know you and want to contact me through you. You know, I'm on Facebook, but I have an author page and a book page. It'd be
Okay.
easier if people just go to my regular page.
Okay.
So
Put it in the
I
show
don't do the
notes.
book page and author page very well.
So you also have a book that you wrote about your experiences too.
Yeah, so the first book is called A Song in the Wind. You can get it on Amazon. And if anybody wants one and you can't afford it, you let me know. Send me your address. I will put one in the mail to you,
Oh, that's so
honestly.
generous of you.
Oh, I'm happy to do it. Actually, it would be my honor to give. I
Wow.
have a children's book too called A Rose from Heaven, and it's a children's book. It's about a little girl, me, who goes through this experience and she comes back and she has a rose from heaven. So, and it's illustrated beautifully. The lady who helped me, she did a wonderful job. Her name is Bethany Kerr. And there's a poetry book out there. And actually, I am in the process now of writing another book. It's called Timeless Love, A Song in the Wind, Book Two. It's being edited right now and it will be out soon. And it's got a beautiful picture of Gray Eagle and then a fake me.
Well, that's lovely. I'll definitely these videos live in perpetuity. So, somebody in the future will be seeing this and that book will have been out for a long time. That's the
Well,
way it works.
uh, did I talk too much?
No, of course you did not. So, Sharon, I want to say to you that I think you are beautiful inside and out. I
Oh,
love and can feel your beautiful energy. It is very, very calming. And I can see how you were chosen to be a messenger for these messages.
oh, thank
So,
you. You're gonna
so
make me cry.
why are making me cry? Thank you for being vulnerable. It's a lot to share these experiences and the things that have happened to you afterwards. But I think people need to hear these messages because they're waking up to their own power. They want to know, is there more than what they think that they've been experiencing? And by you sharing this, it creates an amazing ripple effect that helps wake other people up. So thank you for what you are doing for the collective consciousness.
Oh, well, you're welcome, and thank you for what you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, it was wonderful connecting with you. And thank you, everybody, so much for watching. Next up, check out this playlist of other NDE interviews. Please like and subscribe. It really helps this channel to grow so I can bring you more content. Thank you for watching. I'm so glad you're here.